Hello and welcome to this new channel, Missing Faces in Teaching. My name is Dr. Marie Charles and I am the founder and director of MFIT. Our focus is research into the publications of Black history in its truest foundational evidenced aspects. You will find here evidence that Black people populated the globe from the origins of humanity, holding leadership roles and developing models of governance throughout all time. Each of these short programs will feature the key elements from selected Missing Faces in Teaching journals and other publications. Many listeners will be very familiar with the fact that your surname is not your slave name. One of the biggest lies taught in mainstream education is that melanated people have slave names. The following primary source evidence demonstrates that FBBs, Foundational Black Britons, are both the founders and indigenous holders of their own surnames, and their lands and estates until the forced expulsions during the Cromwellian period and the Jacobite uprisings. How was it possible for such huge estates to be in the possession of a population of people who were not indigenous to Bratanak, Britain, and I'm talking about later Europeans, otherwise known as white people? If we look at this example of the de Vienne surname, this is William of Burgundy, who was the son of the Lord of Rouen in eastern France. Now the surname Vienne migrates, as those people migrate into Britain from the continent, into the surname Venn in Aberdeen in Scotland, which becomes the family name among the Pictish clans of ancient Scotland. And so we find the continuation of those foundational Black British surnames. Cook, for example, the ancient Cook family held land in Berwick. As you can see on the map, which is just below Dundee, after 1147, there was also a family in Fife that held that name in 1260. And then we find the ancient Banks family, who originated in Caithness and the Orkney Islands. And if you look to the map to the left, you can see Caithness that occupies the southern tip of Scotland. And so we build up a picture of those families that moved, migrated and settled as foundational Blacks in Scotland and Ireland. It's also very important to remember that the first Scots from Scotland were in fact the kinfolk of the earliest Irish populations. And so that movement across those geographical spaces was constant throughout time. And if you look at the map, it literally is a hop, skip and a jump away. So the Cook and the Banks family were originally foundational Black Britons. And then we find the Andrews family, the Andrews surname, found in Fife and in Cumberland. Moren, which is the Old Irish of Morgen, the sea-begotten mermaid, from the Old Welsh Morgan, sea-born, daughter of Hungus, king of the Picts. According to the legend of St. Andrew, she was the first person buried at Kilrimont, St. Andrews, and a chapel was built in her honour. And there we have the female in the tradition of the Andrews lineage. And there she is, positioned on the map in Cumbria, just a hop, skip and a jump away from the Isle of Man. Andrews is also found in Fife, as you can see just below on the map, below Dundee, are the Andrews of Fife. Now, Fife is a very, very important region, as all regions are here in Scotland and Ireland, because it is another royal region. Of course, we find the Andrews, but we also find the Ford family or Fordell family in Fife from the castle of Fordell. And she is depicted in a painting as a Moorish noblewoman, and she wears all of the symbols and attributes of wealth and nobility, the pearls and the headband, and yet mainstream education describes her as a slave, which we know is absolute nonsense. And if you look very carefully at that painting in my research, you will see that she is holding a dragon on her lap, which is a very, very, very powerful symbol of the Arthurian legend, which originated in France among the black nobles. And you'll also find that in one of my publications. And so Scotland, in many of its regions, finds the origin of the Andrews family, who move up and down. This is very, very important that we remember that those migrations would have moved further down the map in Britain and across the oceans. And here we find the Conway, or the Conways of Inverness. Conway is an Irish, Scots and Welsh surname. If you look very closely on the map, you can see it tucked away in that easterly point on the map. The Conways. There is also a Conway Castle in Wales, which shows the lineage of those first black families that would move around the map and build their estates and their infrastructure and their wealth. We also find the Bridges surname from Dumfries and Galloway and Kirkcudbrightshire. Now, bridge is from the Middle English word brig and the Old English word brisk, bridge, which is a cognate with the Middle High German word Bruch, the Old High German Brucker. And so building and maintaining bridges was one of the three main feudal obligations. The cost of building a bridge was often defrayed by charging a toll. And so the surname being acquired by the toll gatherer. And so we see from the names how that was connected to the architecture and the families building their infrastructure around them. Bridges, and you can see that on the map again, that it resides again, another hop skipping away from the Isle of Man. And so we can see all of those migrations quite easily when we put all of those points together from that very short set of examples that I have shown, that the map becomes fuller and fuller with all of those surnames and their physical anthropology and their material culture. And so in this particular example, this is an excerpt of, it's taken from issue 14, and I have over 400 original foundational black surnames. And in the county of Waterford, which is in Munster, or Mumu in its original form, Munster is also found in Germany, and you will see the continental connections there. The confiscation of lands, stocks and crops was recorded on the 23rd of January in 1653 as Cromwellian transplanters' certificates detailing the names and physical descriptions of foundational Black Irish. And as you can see in that green box, I have given it just a short set of examples of something that is quite extensive. We find William Deere who is 5 foot 120, brown, Irish and a tailor. John Anderson, 5 foot 4, 32, swarthy, Scotch and a planter. William Jenkins, 5 foot 11, 28, swarthy complexion, Ireland and a joiner. John Campbell, 5 foot 6, 34, brown, Scottish, speaks broad. Timothy Shaw, 5 foot 10 and 3/4, brown, Irish, a weaver, speaks broad. James Malone, 5 foot 1, 31, dark, Irish, a shoemaker, very talkative. Lawrence Dillon, 5 foot 3, brown, Irish, very talkative. John St. Clair, 5 foot 8 and 3/4, dark, Scottish, slender knees bending in. Patrick Glenn, 5 foot 6, 40, dark, Scottish, lively eyes, well made. And John Thornton, 5 foot 8, 44, dark, Irish, a hatter, fat and well made. Again taken from issue 14, pages 97 to 107, and there are hundreds of these names, these surnames, describing the original holders of those surnames as swarthy, as black or as brown. When you read those recorded original surnames of foundational Black Britons in issue 14, your psychological factor will be restored back to its original place, and you will remove the erroneous and monstrous lie that our surnames are slave names. We know that to be a total falsehood. We know that now because of the overwhelming evidence. And so MFIT will be back with more evidence. Until next time, Ku Amsha, to awaken.